We're back with former Senator Emmett Hansen here at Feather Leaf Inn. Dialogue is back on the campaign trail with the delegates to Congress. We're not gonna trickle, but we're gonna touch on the economy. Let's go there.
So I want to touch on it from the aspect of the versions seems to be at a crossroads economically. The one thing I wanted to talk about is we know that costs, we know about the WAPAs, we know about the taxes and all those kind of things that compound the cost for Virgin Islanders and make it really hard to live in a VI, right? What will be your 4 things that you want to focus on? If Senator DC, what will be the 4 things you want to focus on that could help drive down the cost and spur economic development?
First thing that I look at, and I've done years worth of research on this, and it's the biggest boogeyman that we have here, which is naturally WAPA. Now, there are 10 federal agencies who have a direct link to electrification and that whole thing, solar, wind, petrochemicals, all that stuff. But what has never happened is no delegate or governor has actually moved to get those 10 federal agencies to sit down with the and I'm not talking about a representative. I'm talking about somebody who could say yay or nay. I'm not talking about somebody who just answers the phone. I'm talking about give me a director who could deal with rural electrification. The issue with that is that we need to get true numbers from WAPA. Because I'll be honest with you, I have not believed anything I've heard from WAPA in 20 years. I have not. Because every time they speak, it's not true. It's not true. We don't know where all this money has gone. We don't know about the investments. We don't know why you bought Wartsillas when you knew they couldn't handle the load.
And they're experimental.
And we was warned by HUD.
Experimental.
Yes.
Nobody else in the world has it.
No.
And we're still estimating meters uptimes.
Oh, well,
Mine?
it's 20 years, you say. It's not the same people. So what kind of culture is people buying into or absorbing when they go into the WAPA? Because it's not the same years.
You know what it is? You've heard of the Peter Principle, where you promote people to their level of inefficiency? That's what's happening here. That's what's happening here. If you could shut your mouth and close your eye and kill your conscience, you'll survive there.
But back to
Yeah.
But back to
Oh,
your
yeah.
four things.
Okay, so that's the biggest thing. That's the boogeyman for me. We need to get an unbiased eye to look at what is going around, to look at why we are such a small landmass and we have $1 billion deficit in one place. It's a horror show. That's what it is. But that is the first thing that I would do, to get an unbiased eye, somebody without any skin in the game, to just tell us, look at the numbers. What happened? You see? And if you have the real reality, then you can turn around and fix it. But if you're just accepting anything that's tossed across the table, you'll never know what to fix. That's number 1. Number 2 is to continue with some efforts that I've had before. For example, I think, and again, I'll say that I have an MOU prepared to sign with whomever becomes governor to work together to fix these things. Okay? Now, in the first one, let me just say the first thing that I do is get rid of everybody on the board. Everybody. Goodbye, thank you, sayonara. So that the persons who are going to be there to fix it were not the same persons who enabled the problem. Right? Okay, so I want to be really clear about that. Number 2 is that we would get the Army Corps of Engineers to come in and look at how, again, how the water flows. Because we should have more water available to us, and we don't. But we don't channel it into a place where we could use it, right? There's no reason for that. We should be able to retain the water that we have. and use it for the betterment. Here's an example, farmers, right? If we could channel it into a place, right? Off the local road, through the pipes, into this field, into a well. However the experts want to do it. But we have to stop being a food desert.
Ooh.
That's,
Depending on the word.
oh yeah.
Let them cook. Let them cook.
That's where we are. We are in a food desert of our own making. And I first realized that in 1989, I was in a guard and I went in the next day. And I realized that once the grocery stores were emptied, I was like, my God, what are we going to eat? Right? And it may sound funny, but it wasn't. I was actually standing there in my BDUs, in my wet boots, soaked from head to toe, wondering, there's no food, right? But from then to now, we haven't done any real farming. And when I say real farming, just to pluck it from the ground isn't sufficient. We need to do something called value added. And we need to process it here and make sure that what we're eating is good for us. Because there's so many things that aren't good for us because we import everything. And we need to stop that. If we want canned tomatoes, grow tomatoes. And we need to look from a nutritional point of view, what are we going to grow to feed ourselves? Right? We have so many animals that we could have, but are we processing wheat to feed them? Are we processing grain to feed them? We have so much land that could be used to produce feed. But are we doing it? We're not. We're not. We're buying something to supplement what you're doing. So that's two, right? The other thing is really to continue with the home ownership. The biggest problem we've had is funding. You see? You can't build a house out of good wishes. But when you look at it, as much as we are a food desert, we are also a funding desert.
Ooh.
Our banks don't loan money for businesses, right? How many people do you, I mean, this is rhetorical, of course, but we all know a lot of people can do some amazing things, and they want to get out from under the yoke of being an employee and be a business owner, but the SBA isn't lending like how they should. The banks, that community program they have, forget about it, they don't do it. And this is me telling you that as a former counselor, twice for the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center. Yes, center. They don't lend. They don't. The Office of Banking and Insurance.
Which is underneath the Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah. But you see, the thing is that we also do not bring in capital. The only person who was here on a large scale who was doing it, I don't remember anyone else except for Jeff Crosser when he had Community Bank. Because he really put his money where his mouth was. The guy that they kicked out of Antigua, Sir Alan Stanford,
yeah.
joke. Straight up joke. Straight up joke. He didn't intend to do anything but just rip us off. That's why he got put out to Antigua. And he's really lucky to get put out. Okay? But we have to fund projects where the value of that investment is retained by the residents and citizens of the Virgin Islands. If you buy a home, that's a generational start to wealth. You're not even middle class if you don't own property. You're not, you're a consumer. Because every cent that you make goes to someone else. So there are things called FDICs, I believe, right? So we can have those here where their only worth, their only business is to lend to the local population to help you get started, right? And then from there, you could go to the Small Business Development Center and get free advice on how to manage your money. We should have programs like that for free at the university, aside from that, right? Now, the other thing that is giving us a very black eye, and it's been continuous, is crime. Now, I will use a tried, tired, but true cliche. We don't make guns. So either they're coming in by sea or by air, right? Where's our Coast Guard cutter? We have one, you know. They say it's ours, but you know where it is?
Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. So what goody? Why do you even say it's ours if it's in Puerto Rico? It's 100 miles away. You are not maintaining our shorelines, right? You're not. That little video that I think everybody saw across the street from Plaza, that wasn't no handgun, you know. I was in the Army, that wasn't no handgun. That boom, 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 oh, that's a big one. How did that get here? You know, so the thing is that before we can even talk about building homes, we have to make sure that the inhabitants of those homes are safe. And we're never going to be safe if you are allowing that kind of firepower to come into these islands. But they don't take it serious. When you hear people talking about a law to keep us, all of us, safe and unharmed, and you call it draconian, you are straight up moo-moo. I can't say what I wanted to say. But you're straight up moo-moo because who are you advocating for? How many children do we know have been shot unintentionally? Quite a few, right? We know children have been permanently maimed and killed. And not just the ones who grew up here. Remember the young lady in St. Thomas some years ago? She was here for a tourist, right?
And the administration had to kowtow to that situation.
Yeah. And after that, then Governor Turnbull called me, oh boy, you were right. I knew I was right. You cannot have these things here. And I don't care who's upset. I am not sympathetic to someone who shoots someone and you are not in a state of danger. You just ride around, this ain't no movie. People live here. Children and the elderly live here. And we care about our people. You shoot somebody's family member, granny, auntie, what do you think we're going to do? Who knows if you're going to do it again? You did it once for no reason. You see? But this is what the lawlessness forces us toward. We are not naturally that person. But when it comes to life and death, being whole and healthy and being permanently named and paralyzed, somebody's going to react because you have forced them. Because I will tell you, if you're in law enforcement and you don't have somebody you could talk to, I don't care what they call it, snitching, whatever. If you don't have somebody to talk to, you are not in law enforcement. You're just taking a check. Because the school children know, how come you don't know? And you got a badge and a gun. Now, I'm not saying police are bad. I am a big, big advocate for the police department. But what I'm saying, all these things cannot always be unsolved. They can't be looking forever. You need to have somebody you can go and talk to and find out what's going on in our neighborhoods, in our community, in our schools, and everywhere else, and put an end to it. And the judges are equally at fault, not all. But I don't know why you catch somebody with a gun and you gave him bail, release on own recognizance? Seriously? Then you're not serious. Who are you helping? But we need to get where all of us have that collective mind hive, where all of us are going to say, I'm going to tell. I'm going to tell because you just killed my nephew. And I got a couple more, I don't want them dead too. It's a matter of being a part of these Virgin Islanders that we look out for one another. And to me, it's just that simple.
Sure, Anna.
Yeah, I was a natural absorb, so get second. But
I'm sorry, I get a little worked up when that topic comes up.
everybody has experiences with gun violence here in the Virgin Islands, so let's brought back a little bit of my own personal experience in the members of my community. But I have to move on.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's talk about diversification. There's been talk from other candidates, both our gubernatorial candidates and our legislative candidates, about diversification and some of their clans. Do you buy into anything that somebody else has mentioned, or do you have your own diversification plan?
To be honest with you, I haven't listened.
Okay.
I have not listened.
I got something for this one.
I have not. But what we need to do, again, it's I look at food production and being able to transform that from just a fruit into a drink. I have like 4 mango trees in my yard. All of them, they have taken this thing about fruitful and multiply to the nth level. I have, listen, I can't even begin to tell you how many mango seed and mango leaf I have to, but because of the fact that we are a tropical island, there's a certain exotic salt that goes with that. Not just in our music, but also in our food. Like New Orleans, first thing people think of, music and food. Yeah.
Creole,
So there's a brand that can be created, right? And I think that if people want to grow it, good, because we have some very good farmers here. Our soil is amazing. But I think that rather than selling wholesale a mango for 75 cents, you can take that same mango and transform it into a drink for $7. I'll give you an example. Todd Manley and Mutiny, right?
Breadfruit.
Breadfruit. Nobody ever thought about it, but he is uber successful because he had a vision and he worked on it, right? Now, in order for that goes into something else that's on my plank, on my legislative agenda, which is to, and I did hear something. So, I hear something. So when I hear 2 of my competitors haranguing over the rum cover over, I have an entirely different take on it, which is to expand it to all distilled spirits. Because there's no reason not to. When that happened, right? It was because all they knew that we produced was rum, right? But now what I see happening on St. Croix, and it's happening organically, that we have now become the island with distilleries, right? That is a phenomenon that we need to encourage and we need to profit from as a government.
Because we have beer, vodka, rum, and I think Prosperity is doing gin or whiskey.
And then there's also St. Croix Cellars where they produce their own wine.
Wine, exactly. So you guys see exactly where I'm going from here. Any distilled spirit should be included in the cover over. We don't have to argue about this and argue about that. If you let your mind be free, you will see that that is a way for us to go. And people who drink will drink, and people who don't drink won't drink. So it's no impact on our community. It's an impact to our treasury, certainly. But the side effect of that, the ancillary effect of that, is that we can become, just how we have church tours, right? We can have a distillery run, right? You come to St. Croix, we have, I would imagine that by the time we spend another 5 years, we'll probably have 15 distilleries. That's a good day. That's a good day. Take your aspirin before you sleep. But I think that's a good day. And I think that in that, you can talk about the history of the island, right? I don't know anybody has a copper anymore. Damn it, everybody used to have a copper in their yard, right? But I think that if we can look at things like that, and we can use our natural surroundings, nobody ever thought they could make vodka out of breadfruit. And we have so many other plants out there, right? Now, if we can go ahead and do that, and I think it's an easy fix with Congress, because if you already did the rum, and I could say, well, this is that and that is this. Just say, and all other distilled spirits. All other distilled spirits. 4 words. And we have now created a boon to our economy. And it's not something that's going to cost as much as anything else. That's not $1 million change. Distilleries are not very expensive. If you look at how much vodka Mutiny produces, and you look at the little room that it's produced in, we can replicate that all the way around, right? So that's one of the things that I think that we can do that is going to take so little effort. The other thing is healthcare. We keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. Now, there's a reason why our hospitals are upside down financially, right? Mm. There is no, and this is a big one for me, there is no reason why we pay in the same amount of money as someone making the equal amount of money on the continental United States. Being that we know that to be a truth, why are we getting back less? Clearly, it's discriminatory from being on an island. I don't think it's racial, but it's discriminatory for where you live. It is a punishment for living in God's paradise.
Racial discrimination?
Yes.
Location discrimination.
Location. Because any of us, the 4 of us here, the people watching, if we decide to get on American Airlines or whoever and go to Florida, just like that, you are transformed. And now you can get all the SSI you want. And you could get Part D in your Medicaid. The world is your oyster. Why? Because now I don't live where I want to live. But you can call me for your water. But you can't take care of me once I'm hurt.
Well, I know somebody would want to talk about other things that regards us being under the interior, but it would open up another so
We ain't enough time.
right now. But we did have a, behind the scenes conversations about that. But we won't go there because I'll just go to.
Well, you could call me back.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. But and those are the things that I look at, because the other thing is we have to eliminate the double duty that we pay. Again, if I buy a car, regardless of where the car is made, Germany, Japan, wherever, and I drive it from Arkansas to Kansas, they don't charge me. That duty's paid once. There's no need for it to be paid here again.
We get punished for interstate commerce.
Yes. Yeah. And again, if you notice there's a commonality in the things that I'm saying, in that all I'm saying is make me whole. Stop penalizing me with these stupid things because you're not right. Don't call me an American and then put impediments in my way towards full inclusion. Right? It doesn't make any sense.
Who would you be targeting if it were to be set to Washington? Who are the people that you would engage the most? Some of your.
I would make an ally out of the Department of Interior.
Don't we have an urgent island living there right now?
Yeah. Good old Basil. But honestly, that's my plan, to make them my ambassador, because we are, as you mentioned, right under them. So that's where we must start. We must start with who is in charge. And for them to go back to whomever and say, you know what? This guy he's right. There's nothing that I can say to dissuade him from this being changed. Because until then, we're second-class citizens, and that makes me itchy. I don't like it. And to that end, that is killing people here because they can't afford the medicine, right? They can't afford anything, can't afford the food. You can't afford to move forward because this extra tax on what we buy has just driven up the cost of everything. It's everything. It's unrelenting with, with what WAPA is doing. I know some young people that are trying. Man, they're trying, but they can't move out because they know if they do, they can't pay the light bill. And it's a real thing. They can't buy, it's hard to eat healthily here. It's hard. Salad, $23. And oh, by the way, if you want some chicken, put on another $8.
Yeah, produce is very expensive in the
It
territory.
is.
And the ones in the supermarket.
The quality is not
The
there.
quality.
I wanted to ask because we were talking about like the costs on driven up and having to pay for interstate.
They're getting punished for
Yeah.
interstate panels.
Yeah.
Would you be in favor of repealing the Jones Act?
No, no, because I think that they should take it off of Puerto Rico. You see? Because saying to someone in this day and time that all your ships have to fly a
American
U.S. flag,
yes.
that's ignorant. It's just that, you know, it's just that they just simply want things to remain the way they remain. You see? Now, for us, I think they should enjoy the same benefits of any ship with any flag coming in here. That's our advantage. But then we got to pay the duty when it does get here. So it's like, how do you want it, with the gun or with the knife? That's the problem that we have, right? Yeah, that's what it is. But I think that all of the territories should be treated equally. But that brings me to a point that I'm very happy about. I'm going to tell you a very short story. When I first became state chair, I went to the conference, the convention, I think it was. And I met a gentleman here in Shoys, Congressman Tim Kaine. He's the one that ran with Hillary Clinton. So I met him here before. So when we went there, he was, I think, secretary at the time. So we met, we spoke, we had a good discussion with the other new ones. And I said, listen, I saved this question for last. So he goes, well, sure, what is it? I said, why I was so damn racist. And he laughed. Everybody laughed. And he said, no, man, you at the wrong convention. That's the Republicans. I didn't laugh because I was going somewhere with it. So he says, well, what's the problem? I said, what caucus do you think I belong in? He says, African American. I said, okay, I'll get back to that. I said, this gentleman here with the hat and the curls. Oh, he's in the Jewish. This person in the Asian. This one is Latin. I said, now coming back to me. I said, Tim, I'm not African American. I am a Caribbean man. I live in a territory, and I have more in common with the other territories than I do with any African American. We live on islands. We have certain struggles and challenges in getting things in and out because you can't just drive island to island. I said, so stop looking at me and deciding what cubbyhole to put me in. We need our own caucus because we have shared interests, right? Now, he was kind of puzzled. And he says, well, I still don't get the first thing he said. I said, okay, listen here. What caucus you belong to? And his face just like broke apart like in the cartoons and fell on the table. It's like, well, I'm not in one. I said, why aren't you in one? He said, okay, I get your point. I said, great. Now I could tell you that I'm very happy that today we have a territorial caucus. You see? Now, I wasn't the representative when it happened, but I introduced the idea. And I think that it became an earworm, you see? And that now we have a territorial caucus. So in regard to what I'm saying about how we approach things, now it's not just, oh, that guy from the Virgin Islands sitting there bitching again. It's not. Now it's that these are shared concerns from all of our territories. That makes it a whole different game, right? Because when you look at the amount of persons from the territories that live on the continental U.S., and you're talking about millions
We're a
in
small
Florida.
state.
How?
We're a small state collectively.
Precisely.
Especially with Puerto
Precisely.
Rico.
Exactly. And that should be our nearest trading partner. You see? So the thing is that when I come to this position, I come from a different mindset than someone else would. But because I spent a decade in the DNC, I understand the thought process that needs to be changed. And we cannot rely on anyone else except for who is in our same position to help us. This Lone Ranger thing, no, it can't be that. Whomever is a delegate, and I'm hoping it's me, will have to walk hand in hand with whoever is governor. You work on your end, I'll work on this one, but we don't work on the same thing.
So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because we're out of time again. I want to ask you something very specific. It doesn't matter how much water you pump in a broken pipe or through a leaky faucet. The Virgin Islands is notorious for sending back federal funds and not spending them in time and losing them, which ultimately affects how much more money we could draw down for the next
Right.
grant cycle. How will you, if you're elected as delegate to Congress, help us to spend the money on time and or make sure the money isn't being returned?
That is a great question. I'll tell you. I wrote a paper when I was in the master's program about establishing a federal office. Well, a joint federal local office. But what it would begin with is persons from the congressperson's office working with persons who work for the local government specifically for federal funds. You identify, you test, you make sure they are ready. Not because they're so-and-so daughter, so-and-so son. You make sure that their school work, what they have studied, is up to the task. You send them to D.C. to be trained by the Department of Interior about how this works. Make sure they have the skills. Create a test that they have to pass. Because all the federal money pretty much comes through the delegate office, right? So there must be collaboration between the delegate's office and the governor's office to have this special unit. Now, why that's even more so important is we have two huge agencies, education and health, right? You can't have one person doing it. Now, they could do it to a point, but when you have to collaborate, when you have to sit down and do the reporting on a monthly basis, in fact, let's say on a 3-week basis, because that report got to be on time, if there's 4 weeks.
And they're managing several massive grants at the time.
Exactly. Now, not all grants come due at the same time. So when that occurs, you could pull from persons who have been similarly trained. You work on this part of it, I'll work on this part, and all of a sudden, now you're meeting your deadlines and your numbers are correct. Because it's not just one person managing $1 billion something. You see? So this is how we have to evolve as a government, right? And these positions would be permanent, not exempt, because they're not going to keep training people. And if you keep the same people there on a permanent basis and you check their work and it's correct, now it's less burdensome. And you don't have to start over, because that too is a serious detriment to our government efficiency. Every time you turn around, governor change, commissioner change, personnel change. And I have never seen where it's done us any good. Never. So we get these folks who can do that. And they stay there as long as they're performing. And they can help each other.
So I just want to recap that because I like that. So you're basically talking about treating grant management and grant managers almost like you would do other financial personnel. You're creating a training program,
Yes.
a testing and examination. Pretty sure there's going to be some continuing education. but then you're also creating almost like a grant management unit within the government of the Virgin Islands.
Yes.
Supported by your office,
Right.
trained at the federal level.
Trained at the federal level. Yes. And they are there permanently so that we don't lose the expertise. And anytime you keep doing something, you get better at it. And because, let's say I'm the delegate, right? You two out there. I'm the delegate, right? So turn around, it's not going to be what's going to be faced in this coming fiscal year when we've had all these indictments and convictions and jail sentences. Because I'm telling you, the money that's gone is gone. And they're not going to say, you know what, you're a nice guy. Here's a $1.3 million back for the wood you let rot in a field. It's not going to happen. Because if this continues, and I would wager that it will, or it has, the discoveries, right? We're not going to get a dime. Nobody throws good money after bad. We don't have any savings. The government of the Virgin Islands has no savings. So we do not produce enough revenue to make up for that. So something drastic has to happen so that when we do have to go back, well, what about that money sent you? As a matter of fact, let me tell you what we've done, right? And you have a solution and it's working. Now it's a new conversation. It's a new, insightful conversation because we took care of that problem ourselves.
I'm really hearing that I have conversations and people are just like so willing to regress back in letting like larger federal agencies take over. It's a regression, and it is a disrespect to our ancestors. I think we just need to get to our highest capacity and efficiency.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Right.
Look around the rest of the Caribbean and see if they're having that problem. They're not. Not to this. Look how quick the people in Kotola bounced the prime minister when he was selling coke. That took no time. That took no time. He do what? The belt was out. Just like that. But we used to be like that. But now we have become so laissez-faire about corruption and wrongdoing that now we're trying to make the villain the hero or the victim. And I don't understand that. I don't. You know? If you're thieving, use a thief. Simple.
Well, former Senator Hansen,
Yeah.
before you go, those two cameras over there, make your case to the community.
First of all, I want to thank these fine people for inviting me and asking me a barrage of really insightful questions about the Virgin Islands and where my place is in it. I have spent a decade at my own expense working in the DNC so that I may be of use one day. That day is today. I can say without fear of contradiction there isn't another candidate in this race that has a day, whereas I have a decade, a full decade that was recognized to the point where I was asked to be on the Presidential Nominees Policy Committee. I'd say I did pretty well, but I can do even better being sent there to make sure our islands move forward. And I don't always have to be in charge, as you just heard. But what I will be in charge of is making sure that our concerns are heard and that they become action items, and that to the extent possible that I would improve the quality of life here in the Virgin Islands. I am not concerned about national politics in the least bit. My concern is here. Thank you for watching and listening. Again, thank you for inviting me. I had a ball.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, former Senator Hansen. Thank you to my co-host, to Ryan, who's always keeping me in the trenches. I know what you're doing, Ryan. Anyways, thank you, Federal Leaf In, for hosting us. Dialogue 340. We'll be back.